sometimes I just feel like missing on purpose. Missing on purpose wouldn't even really be missing now, would it? Because the purpose behind it is that all the rote, all the monotonous, all the dogmatic, all the living out of false suppositions. Most people don't understand the true principle behind the level of unwavering integrity. Now, as you get into a level of systematizing your existence, streamlining your energy, that's what discipline is. It's streamlining your energy towards specific ends. No waste, no extra moves, no dissipations. As you systematize your life, it's going to start to feel a bit routine, a bit constrictive. And once you realize that the appearance of discipline seems to be restrictive, but in all actuality, discipline becomes the freedom, then you understand that as you consistently stay in your system, as you consistently stay on your program, as you don't deviate, the only thing that ever worked was the system. Now, like I said, I feel like missing sometimes just to say to the world, fuck you. Because it gets very easy for an individual like myself to feel a little bit like people trying to hold me hostage to these ways and manners. And in all reality, I'll never be held hostage to the opinions or validations of anyone else. It just makes no sense to miss. That's the deeper context. It makes no sense to miss. But understand that if I chose not to do something simply because I've been doing it, that doesn't mean anything. Whatever you are, your world is yours. Don't ever get held hostage. That's the point. As we move on, I don't really want to go through too much hoorah. But you got to understand that most of you are living through the lens of other people. Most of you are living through the lens of shackles. Most of you are living through the lens of having to do things without understanding the intrinsic good that's attached to it. We live in a world full of people who are walking, talking contradictions. And it's not that they are simply contradictions unto themselves, whereby which they tell themselves they're going to do this, achieve that, and accomplish X, Y, and Z, and then go against everything that would be correct to accomplish said X, Y, and Z. For example, an individual says they'll be sober, they'll contradict themselves by going to get drunk and going to fuck themselves up. An individual says they're gonna become a better level of productive with themselves and their society and whatever the fuck. And you can talk about money, it's about being productive. And then they go into unproductive, self-debilitating habits. I could come up with a million ways to articulate this, but y'all get lost in those. So let's just keep it simple. People are walking contradictions. And once you realize it's in your best benefit to remove all the contradictions of your existence, then it's no real reason. There's no real reason to be missing. You could never tell me there's a reason or I have a vested interest or that it's to my benefit to not be on program, to not do what I need to do, to not handle my business, to not show up. You could never exclaim that. So whatever you are, as you pay attention, most people get caught up in the crucible of being pulled with discipline, aka systematizing your life, structuring your existence, streamlining your thoughts, your energies into actions that produce results. Key word is produce. People, it's natural. You want to rebel against that which impedes upon your absolute free will. But most people are rebels without causes. And most people are rebels with the only cause to rebel or to rebel, with no other cause other than rebellion for rebellion's sake, to express a false sense of individuality, a false sense of autonomy, to their own deficit and detriment by incurring upon themselves a contradictory lifestyle. Once you realize to be a healed individual really means to have removed all the contradictions from your behaviors and your coexistence within existence. The only goal is to no longer be a quote-unquote hypocrite, no longer be a contradiction in concept and in practice. Conceptually, you think you're a good person. Conceptually, you would want to be this person. Sober, fit, enlightened, and rich, prospering, no longer poor. And too many people fail to recognize that monetary value is not the only measurement or assessment of poverty. There are plenty of people with money who are still poor. And that doesn't mean that the more a person has money, the more there's a correlation increase of them being proportionately poor. The more money you have, the more poor you are. Shut the fuck up. You day room niggas be blowing mine with that shit. But money is not the sole indicator or the sole measurement of poverty. Sober, fit, enlightened, and rich. Sober and fit and enlightened and rich. These are the four pillars. If it ain't all four, you're definitely poor. And if it ain't the first three, you definitely ain't free. Whatever you are, your world is yours. Consider the vibrations raised. Remove the contradictions between your conceptual self and your actual practical self, and everything else will be liberated. Because the afflictions of your existence are rooted in the contradictions that you commit and permit. Copy? Whatever you are, your world is yours. So, with these 444s, I'd be like, man, fuck this shit. But it don't make no sense. I'm the king of this shit. I've seen a lot of people try it. They failed because it wasn't your thing to do to begin with. And sometimes I'm like, man, fuck this. Fuck waking up. But it doesn't make sense not to. It makes less sense to miss. It makes less sense to not do the work. It makes less sense to choose to be poorer than necessary than to simply do what's in my best interest. If you listen to that sentence from an objective perspective, you will see how laced with mental illness everybody is. Self-mastery only success, evolution only solution. Remove the contradictions from your constitution between your conceptual self and your actual practical self. Because everybody thinks they're this person in concept. But when it comes down to the moment of demonstration, they show themselves to be habitual contradictions. Consider the vibration.